Welcome to The Savage Truth with Cicely Davis. I am your host, Cicely Davis.
Ladies and gentlemen, gather round for a moment of reality because JD Vance is about to school Tim Walz in the vice presidential debate. Let's be honest. Okay, we need a moment of honesty here. How could anyone expect Walz, with his laundry list of disastrous policies straight out of the Biden-Harris playbook, to hold a candle to someone like JD Vance? Now, just so you know, a little disclosure, this, I'm hoping, gets out before the debate, okay? This is my hope. And then the next episode, I hope to discuss the debate afterwards. I'm actually going to introduce you to my husband. Everybody in the world needs somebody that they discuss politics with in a way that is very uninhibited and without any restraints. And so I'm actually going to introduce you to my husband. This is a person that I speak politically the most, and I am most, pretty savage, honestly. So that's my hope. The question is, how can anyone expect Tim Walz to even think that he can hold a candle to the likes of JD Vance? Vance's story is one of grit, as you know, of resilience and the American dream, while Walz is just another cog in the well-oiled machine of failure that has been churning out disaster after disaster right here in Minnesota, where I sit right now, right? JD's background resonates with the working class and the middle class Americans who are fed up with the elitism of the Democrats. He's not just some ivory tower politician. He knows what it's like to struggle. He knows what it's like to come from struggle and succeed through hard work. Meanwhile, Tim Walz, I mean, literally, I almost break out when I say his name, right? I break out in hives. I start to itch. I squirm. That's real. Well, his grand plans for Minnesota have been more like a one-way ticket to mediocrity. And frankly, who needs that kind of unqualified leadership on a national stage? I mean, I frankly have had enough of mediocrity since Obama all the way through the Biden administration. I've had it. Let's not forget the policies that have plunged Minnesota into chaos. The tax hikes, the crime rates soaring, and let's not even start on the education system. If that's what Walz's idea of progress is, then we need to redefine what progress actually means. Vance stands for real solutions. He stands for real Americans. He's rooted in common sense, while Walz seems to think common sense is just a catchy phrase, right? It's just some everyday cliche. He doesn't even use it. He doesn't abide by it. He doesn't even know what it means, and he certainly doesn't operate by it. So as the debate rolls around tonight, hopefully you're watching this tonight. This drops, hopefully, this is my hope, that it drops on the day of, so Tuesday, right? Hopefully as the debate rolls around, we can expect JD to shine a spotlight on the glaring incompetence that Walz represents. And that's truly what he represents. He represents mediocrity, a plunge into poverty, incompetence. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a show. And Vance is taking home the victory. I feel that. I'm claiming that right now. Okay. I'm already claiming it. Now, let's take a closer look at Vance's background. As I said, I mentioned it a little bit before, and you all know this, right? This is what I love about my audience. This is what I love about you. You're already tuned in. You're so very smart. But if you brought someone along who's never watched or who is not really in tune and they're just maybe starting to get in tune to it or have some curiosity about the show or who JD Vance is in comparison to Tim Walz, you tuned into the right show. I'm going to share it with you, okay? I'm from Minnesota. JD Vance, he grew up in a working class family in Ohio, not exactly the poster child for privilege. His rise from those humble beginnings to Yale Law School speaks volumes about his determination and his intelligence, right? So you can come from humble beginnings, not that allow that to be something that stops you, not allow that to dictate your circumstance, not allow that to dictate your future, right? Decide to not embrace mediocrity, go to Yale Law School, and end up running as president or vice president of the United States. Now, we contrast that with Walz, who has been comfortably nestled in the political establishment. And if we're looking for a candidate who understands the struggles of everyday Americans, it's clear, it is crystal clear who the choice should be, okay? The Trump Vance ticket. Vance's life experiences and his experiences inform his policies, making him relatable. It makes him genuine, right? He's someone you can talk to, someone you can approach, someone you can sit and have a beer with, right? Kind of tell him all your stories. He will actually give you eye contact and listen and genuinely care. I mean, I haven't ever actually met him, but when I look at him, when I watch him in interviews, he's actually truly listening. He actually answers the question that has been asked of him. He speaks with specificity. He gives you actual real answers, real solutions, right? And he's completely confident in his ability and Trump's ability to run this country and turn our country around and get our society back. That's who I'm voting for. And I'm going to do it early, by the way. Vote early. Now, and speaking of Walz, let's dissect his track record in Minnesota, okay? Under his watch, crime rates have skyrocketed. They have they're terrible in St. Paul, okay? They're terrible in Minneapolis. Residents are not safe. Surrounding suburbs of those cities, okay? And that crime has absolutely bled into the suburbs, okay? This is a blue state through and through. I like to refer to it as Smurfville. There are a lot of other states, unfortunately, run by these disgusting politicians, okay? But truly making residents feel unsafe in their neighborhoods. And while JD Vance advocates for law and order, Walz's approach seems to be more about appeasing radical elements than actually keeping communities safe. Walz is clearly more concerned about political correctness than the well-being of his constituents. In fact, I would say that Walz and the Biden administration, which absolutely includes Kamala Harris, even though she's trying to memory hold the fact that she is the vice president of the United States, running under and supporting Joe Biden, I would say that they truly hate those who actually vote for them. They have a real disdain, a disregard for them. There seems to be a real disregard and disconnection to their constituency. What I can't get my family members to understand is that the reason that Kamala Harris changes her dialect when she goes and speaks in front of a Black audience, it isn't because she's trying to connect to Black people. Don't misunderstand. It's because she truly doesn't actually understand Black people, but she actually doesn't like them. She doesn't know who Black people are. She hasn't really tried. She hasn't really tried to really truly know Americans. It's because she doesn't respect them. And this is her way of, interpreting Blackness. And it's always so insulting. Let's discuss education. Another key issue where Vance shines while Walz falters. And I mean, any issue, really. Take any issue. Both of them are on the wrong side of it, right? But as we talk about education, Vance knows that our children deserve a solid education, not a political battleground. His support for school choice and accountability is a breath of fresh air in a system bogged down by bureaucracy and failed policies. Now, when I was running as Congresswoman, I said a long time ago that we need to shut down the Department of Education because we're not getting better with them. Our kids have actually taken a dip in education, right? Worldwide, we don't rank, right? We spend more money than any other country in the world. And yet, when it comes to literacy rates and graduation rates, United States is way too low. We're just not ranking, right? So the whole point is that what do we need this bureaucratic entity for if we have them and they can't actually help us achieve literacy, achieve literal greatness so that we can actually compete with others in the world? Walz clings to outdated notions that only perpetuate the status quo. If parents can't trust their leaders to put their kids first, then what are we doing here? What are we doing? What do we need the Department of Education for? What do we need people in Congress making decisions for? We can bring it back to the states, which the founders intended in the beginning. The literacy rates and the DEI practices in public schools here in Minnesota in particular are atrocious. The economy. Let's talk about the economy. The number one or number two issue, depending on who you ask, and the border, right? Vance, he understands that working class Americans need and want real jobs and real opportunity, not handouts and empty promises. His policies focus on revitalizing industries and creating suitable, sustainable growth. While Walz, on the other hand, seems stuck in a never-ending loop of tax increase and regulations that drive businesses away. It's astonishing to me. It's truly astonishing to me how anyone could look at Walz's in Minnesota and think, yes, that's the model we want to follow for the next 4 years. That's the model that we want to follow nationally. And because it'll probably come up tonight, we might as well go ahead and discuss the energy policies being pushed by the current administration, which Walz is all too happy to support. Now, I have said, as so many others have said, follow the money, right? JD Vance champions energy independence and sensible policies that prioritize American jobs. Now, in stark contrast, of course, Walz's alignment with green energy mandates is a recipe for disaster, driving up costs for families and businesses alike. When you're filling up your gas tank and feeling that pinch, remember who's behind those policies. Kamala Harris said it out of her mouth. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Bidenomics. And we are very, very proud of Bidenomics. And if you want to talk about international relations, my God, we need to do that. It's laughable to think that Walz is equipped to navigate the complexities of global politics. Vance has a clear vision for America in place. It's in the work, prioritizing strength and diplomacy, while Walz, on the other hand, seems to operate under the illusion that everything will magically work out if we just apologize enough to our enemies, apologize to Iran, appease them, keep giving them billions of dollars, right? Turning the other cheek. Newsflash, doesn't work that way. And the world is not that forgiving, and certainly not for Americans. And think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Let's apply some common sense. Wouldn't you be leery of the president that our enemies actually want in office? Iran and China actually want Biden and Harris in office. Think about that. That alone should get you to vote the opposite way. As we prepare for the debate, it's crucial to remember that JD Vance embodies the values of hard work, resilience, and intelligence. Qualities that American savages need in a leader. While Walz represents everything wrong with modern politics: ineptitude, failure, and a lack of accountability. Poor leadership, no leadership, actual tyranny. The choice is crystal clear, folks. Vance is not just a candidate. He's a beacon of hope for all those who feel neglected by a system that lost its way. So let's get ready for the fireworks in the debate. JD Vance will dismantle Walz and his hollow rhetoric and shine a light on the failed politics that have hurt so many Americans, people like you and me, everyday people. It's about time we had a leader who actually understands the plight of the working class and have the vision to drive real change. Now, when I say it's about time, let's also remember that we already had him. We know what Donald Trump can do and will do for us. He's done it. Let's put him in so he can do it again, right? With an even better vice president. This debate, without a doubt, is going to be a show. And JD Vance is going to come out on top. I'm claiming it. As we reflect on the disaster that is Kamala Harris, I have to say, facetiously, of course, it's truly impressive how someone can rise to such a prominent position without ever managing to answer a real question, without ever actually having a real job, without having any actual, real, tangible intelligence. Her inability to lead and her ability to dodge specifics is nothing short of Olympic level talent. Whether it's the border crisis, for which she is the czar, I don't care what they say, or the spiraling economy, her responses are as vague as a weather report in a fog bank. Okay. The American people deserve leadership. I deserve leadership. Rick deserves leadership. You and your friends and your family and everyone else that you know deserves leadership that actually provides solutions, not a series of hollow platitudes that sound great but mean absolutely nothing. When it comes to critical issues like crime and education, Harris is equally evasive. It's almost as if she thinks that throwing out buzzwords will distract us from the complete lack of coherent plan that she has or doesn't have. Okay? Want to know the stance on gun control or reparations? Just go back 3, 4, 5 years when she actually was answering questions. Otherwise, good luck finding a straight answer out of her right now. We're treated to a confusing web of contradictions and empty rhetoric. Is this really the best the Democrats can do? Yes. This is the best they've got, folks. Kamala Harris. That should make you uncomfortable. That should also make you laugh. And it should scare you that there are people in this country right now who actually are trying to vote her in for another 4 years. It's enough to make anyone wonder if they're taking us seriously at all. And they're not. Now let's contrast that with the winning team of Donald Trump and JD Vance. They are leaders who aren't afraid to tackle the tough questions head on. And that's what we're going to see tonight. We're actually going to see someone who will answer the questions head on through JD Vance. He will be specific. He will look straight into the camera. He will answer the questions, and he will be talking to, not at, the American people. Speaking to, not at, those that he wants to have their vote. To, not at, to Americans' future. Trump has proven time and time again that he knows how to engage with the electorate, offering real solutions for real problems. He takes so much criticism because he goes off prompt. But folks, to be honest with you, that's actually what I like about him, is that he doesn't need the prompt because he's just genuinely speaking, and it feels like he's speaking to me personally. JD Vance brings a refreshing perspective rooted in his experiences, and together, he and Trump, they represent a stark contrast to the chaos that Harris and her partner, Tim Walz, embodies. It's clear, crystal clear, that the American voting electorate only has one choice if we want to save what's left of our country and get it back on track. We can either continue down the path of confusion and ineptitude and division and mediocrity, on the path to poverty and the erasure of the middle class and the working class with Harris and Walz, or we can choose the clear, decisive leadership of Trump and Vance, the clear, decisive, and proven leadership of Donald Trump and his even better choice for vice president in JD Vance. The stakes couldn't be any higher, and the choice couldn't be any clearer. So as we approach the upcoming election tonight, hopefully that's when you're watching this, remember that we have a chance to turn things around. We can either embrace the chaos and confusion of the Harris-Walz team and vote them out, not give them that opportunity, or we can rally behind leaders who actually have a plan and the courage to execute it. The future of our country depends on it. I thoroughly believe that. I know you do too. It's time to make the right choice. And that's the savage truth of it today. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And remember, as always, while you're watching the debate, and even afterwards when I introduce you to my husband, be bold, be strong, be faithful, be true. Till next time, I'm Cicely.
Savage Truth with Cicely Davis is a production of Front Page Magazine and the David Horowitz Freedom Center. Reproduction of this podcast without express written consent is prohibited.